There we go. Excellent.
You can start with me coughing.
Yeah, that's a great way to start it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we're just gonna wing this. How about I just do
Sure,
like my little intro and then we just shoot the shit like crazy? How's that?
sure. Sounds
And
good.
I might not even edit it. Like, let's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, everybody, it's the Ordinary Joe Show. Can you believe it? And I'm here with my very, very good friend, Jennifer Brigden. We went to school together in Melita. Well, I was the teacher and she was the student, but I don't know how much teaching I actually did. Yeah. But thank you. Continue coughing and hacking if you like. Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. So thank you
And,
very much. I think
thank you. And you were an
probably,
excellent teacher. My whole family was sick last week. My kids got sick, like boom, boom, boom. And then
yeah.
Saturday, like Friday, I felt really sick and it just lingered. So I still have this screwed up voice, but that's
It's
okay.
a crazy thing, isn't it? All the sickness and crap going around. Yeah,
It's never ending.
it is never, especially with kids. I remember that time period for sure.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, my phone's stinging. It's supposed to
I
be
can't
on Do Not Disturb.
I can't believe that you have kids and you're all grown up now. Like, and I don't think I've talked to you since I left school. Like, what the hell?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like face to face, I don't think we've managed to see each other. I don't go back to, I know lots of your listeners are in Manitoba, but I don't get to go home for, oh my God. Sorry. I don't know why. For anyone listening, the dinging is my husband. I'm not, I'm like you. I don't really know how to work everything, and it's all supposed to be set to do not disturb. What's
Yeah.
funny is that these are the buttons I hit um, when I'm on stage, and then I have my phone in my pocket, and now I'm going to be very nervous that it's going to ding. Um, but yes, it's hard to get back, and I never spend a lot of time in Winnipeg
Yeah.
because my parents live, 4 hours from Winnipeg, and
That's
so we
right.
kind of land in Winnipeg and then take off.
Yeah, and
So
then head her all out. Yeah. So
yeah.
let's talk all things comedy. I am massively, massively impressed. And I've been telling people I'm doing a podcast and I'm interviewing a comedian, and they're like, whoa, which is super, super cool. And I want to hear all the stuff because like you were funny as shit in school, of course. Yeah, you're just you guys were just your whole class was a ton of fun.
We
And then you kind of went off and lived life, and then all of a sudden you're on Yuck Yucks doing like stuff. Like how so how did that happen? And let's hear all about it.
Well, it's funny when I first started learning to do it. I took a class, and there was a wonderful instructor who is a comedian, and he starts the class by saying like, everybody's here because they think they're funny, and that's great, and it's true because I always liked um being a person at the table who could make people laugh or maybe kind of make the conversation more interesting. There's a wonderful episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David calls it middling, uh, like sitting in the middle of the table and just kind of taking on the responsibility of making sure the conversation is great. And I really always loved stand-up comedy, and like growing up where I grew up, it was a very small town, and like the exposure to stand-up comedy was next to nothing. I
Right.
always I knew it existed, but I'd never really seen it other than, you'd be watching like David Letterman or whatever, and you'd see the
Right.
people.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Calgary, which is where I went to university, I got totally hooked. I had this friend who just like loved going to it was Yak Yaks, the comedy club there. And then she took me and I got hooked, and we just kind of went all the time. And I was always kind of, if my parents came to town, that's always where I wanted to go. And that was always the stuff. And like, I don't know, in a weird way, it didn't really occur to me that I could do it. Like, I didn't really know the steps, and it seemed super intimidating. When I was a kid, what 18-year-olds are like fun, good comics, don't get me wrong, but like I didn't have very much to say. Like I don't think, I don't know if in what, I don't remember watching it. I remember watching it and thinking to myself like, that must feel really cool, and I would love to do that, but never thinking like, what's the actionable steps to do it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, and then it always became something I really enjoyed. I would go and watch whenever I could, and I loved stand-up specials and watching them and going to see comics perform. And then, Netflix kind of became what it was, and you could see all these stand-up specials. And I don't know. And then it became something that I started talking about a lot, that I really wanted to try it, and I really wanted to figure out
Hmm.
how. And then I met my husband and we moved here. I had no friends and no job, and was, feeling all the feelings when you make a pretty big life change.
Yeah.
And it just became a thing that I wanted to do. And then, so in trying to figure out how to do it, I learned that there was a class here that you can take, and I did take it. And so it's like 6 weeks. And what's very cool about the class is there's not a lot of lessons. There's like however many people are signed up for the class. Every week you have to just walk up to the microphone and tell a joke, and then the next week you have to tell 2 jokes, and the next week you have to tell 3 jokes.
Oh,
And then
okay.
and by the time you get to the end of 6 weeks, you should have a couple of minutes. And that's just kind of it. And it just walks you, because that's really the best way to learn how to do it, is to just keep going up there and telling a joke and then coming and sitting back down. Um, and then afterwards, I just really liked it. And so I started going to open mics, and I still do it. So I'm not that successful.
I don't know. I watch you. You look like you're doing pretty good.
I'm doing good. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's and really, really liked it. And I'm kind of, in the local community a bit. Like, I know people, and I get to do I get to do lots of open mics, which are the smaller shows at bars and pubs and whatever. And then yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So it was like a weird journey of just kind of always liking it, and then deciding I wanted to do it, and then I don't know, just doing it.
Just
Yeah.
jumping in with both feet.
Well, I took a class.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, so this class continues to run here, and now it's moved and it's affiliated with one of the comedy clubs. And so a lot of people do take it. And I don't know, it's sometimes, and like not locally, but sometimes there's like this split thing of like, our class is good or our class is bad. And I think there's a lot of classes out there that aren't as good as this class, because this class is really just like, if you want to learn how to do this, you need to know where the stage is, and you need to walk up to the microphone, and you need a chance to pick up the microphone and speak into it, and you need to screw up, and you need to like say a joke in a fairly safe space. And so creating that safe space and creating like the world's safest open mic is like this really wonderful experience. And I think doing that has led a lot more people to try it, versus like the hurdles of trying to figure out where these entry level things are, and of getting up on the stage and of trying to do it outside of learning it like in like
Hmm.
a super amateur way. There's a lot, like, you have to find the people, you have to meet the people, you have to go to the people, and then you have to try it in front of a real audience. And it's kind of a scary thing to do. And sometimes the people on those shows are really, really, really good. There are people that a lot of those people perform regularly on the weekends, and it can feel very scary
For
to
sure.
be brand new and have a lot of them. So if you've at least held a microphone and you know how to take it in and out of the mic stand, and you've got 2 jokes, it feels a little bit better. So I did it that way.
That's excellent because, there's to me, there seems like, is there kind of an art of being funny? Like, I can depress the hell out of people, that's easy. But there's kind of the art of drawing from your life and finding the
Yeah.
realistic bits that make it funny to other people and delivering that in a way. So that's a bit of a craft, but then the getting the balls to stand up and deliver it and hoping people laugh.
It's a scary feeling.
Yeah.
It's a very scary feeling, and many other people are better at it than me. But it is a very like there's a lot more timing involved than I think
Yeah.
I anticipated, and there's a lot more. It has to be so much faster than making people laugh at a dinner party. And one thing that was really at my advantage is that I've been a marketing writer forever. I went to school for journalism and communications, and so I worked as a marketing writer. So I had a lot of experience writing radio commercials and ads, and everything in marketing is very, very short.
Yeah.
And comedy is quite similar. And you kind of like, prior to starting it, I would go, okay, so I have this very funny story about myself or whatever. And if I just stand up and tell this funny story, I'll make people laugh. And then if you go up it and do it, and you're like, oh, this is the story that I tell at work at the water cooler, and it makes everyone laugh. And you're like, whoa, that story takes 5 minutes, and I get 3 laughs. And at the water cooler, getting 3 laughs is enough. That's amazing.
Right.
Standing on stage with a hot light and 75 people, and just following someone who's a headliner on the weekends, and somebody who just did a comedy festival, and someone who's really famous who got like a laugh, a laugh, a laugh, a laugh, a laugh. Like they did 5 minutes and they got like 35 laughs, and you're aiming for 3, and then you kind of realize like, oh, I have to add more. Like this isn't a story. This isn't storytelling. This isn't anecdote telling. This is joke telling. And how do I infuse this story with jokes, with presence, with this, with whatever. And that is like, that's the thing that you can figure out with practice and time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
ratcheting that up.
Yeah. And yeah, lots of learning and growing in there for sure.
As a human being, yes. Entirely. Like, I've written so many things, and I remember finishing university and getting a job as a copywriter, and, being hired at this ad agency. And I had this really great creative director, and she was like, gave a ton of feedback. I don't know how else to describe it. She was one of the best writers I've ever met.
Wow.
And like super efficient. I mean, I don't know what her short stories were like, but for marketing writing and stuff, like she was incredible. And she was the person who you turn in a document and she would like scratch it all out and say it's terrible and try it again. But like not in like the mean kind of movie way. It was just like an act of getting better. And like that process, as I don't know, a 22-year-old, how old are you when you finish school? Really young.
Yeah.
Was like a super alarming experience as a young person, because like you've been through school, you've had teachers, you've done all this stuff, but like now you're getting paid and you have to deliver, and you kind of have to be like a little bit vulnerable to make it work.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
if I'm running an ad,
Yeah.
and at the time it was lots of real estate ads for like suburban communities, and you're going, okay, I have to write an ad that gets a couple with a young baby who live in an apartment downtown, who need to move into a bigger house, who are looking for a safe community, who are going to have to commute, who are changing their lifestyle. How do I appeal to that person?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to tap into like, how would I feel if that was me? You're this 22-year-old kid, and I'm like, I don't really know what any of that feels like. So how I have to think about how I make my decisions. What does my home mean to me? What does security and safety mean to me? And find all those feelings, and then sell something and get paid to sell it. And so it, that in itself was this like baby vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like this like tiny thing where I have to tap into a feeling, I have to figure out how to write that feeling down, and then I have to sell that feeling. And I have to share that feeling with a lot of people. I have to receive a lot of rejection from this great writer who's teaching me, from the graphic designers who are going to come back and be like, I don't have space for this many words, cut it in half. And that kind of stuff, from the client who's going to be like, I hate that word, don't use it. Like there's just so many points at that where people say, I don't like it, or it's not right, or let's do it this way, or let's do it my way. And then I don't know, I now really like that. Like I like working that way. I have really ever worked that way, and it makes me very happy. And comedy is that on steroids.
That's right.
You get past the fact that you're standing on stage and no one is laughing at your jokes,
and your boss is drunk. Yeah.
And everyone's drunk, and and you're standing up on, you're standing up there and it's not working, and the guy in the front just opened his menu because he's like, this
Yeah.
isn't gonna get me, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna order and try and flag down that waitress, and you're
Yeah.
standing up there and there's a light in your eyes. You're like, what can I get out of myself that might salvage this, that might get this back?
Yeah. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. So when you do your acts, and I haven't, like, I gotta see you live someday, and
Yes,
yes,
someday.
definitely. But what do you draw on? Is it kind of like personal life stuff? Is it like rural Manitoba country life, or
A
what's?
lot of rural Manitoba country life. So I'm new at this. Like it takes a very long time,
Yeah.
and COVID is a massive interruption. And so a lot of my material is about being from Manitoba. And so I have switched to like my contemporary life recently, which I'm enjoying. And so that's like my next step.
Mhm.
But like my most established, most defined material is largely about Manitoba.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
it's
lot of material there, like living in
yeah.
southwestern Manitoba. You could go on for, you could do your own special on that.
Well, I hope to someday.
Yeah.
And I still do some of it, and I will always do some of it. It will always be there.
Yep.
And ideally, I'll get better and I'll get booked. And like as a starting out comic, you only get between 5 and 10 minutes
Okay.
roughly.
Yep.
And then the next step to that is being booked on the weekends, which again is 5 to 10 minutes. You stay in 5 to 10 minute land for a really long time.
Yep.
And even if I could personally do 45 minutes or an hour, finding an audience at a stage that wants
Yeah.
me is very unlikely, because it just like that comes later. So anyways, so to that point, I do a lot of stuff about Manitoba and a lot of stuff about um not really like my personal childhood, but like being a kid on a farm, and a little bit of kind of talking about what the difference is between being in a city and being in the country. And a lot about dogs, which is very insane. um, because a lot of this began with me telling a story about how every dog I ever had growing up was shot to death. And then kind of, and I actually, if I have any actual fans listening, I'm not 100% that's true. But one of them was, and that sort of spiraled into this little story. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a little bit I don't ever feel like I'm making fun of Manitoba. I actually think I'm more making fun of not Manitoba. And so that's really fun for me.
Well, it's a fun carefree way to celebrate it. All the isms,
Yes,
the
I think
characteristics.
so.
Yeah.
We used to kind of, I mean, kids are kids, but we used to kind of make fun of um my city cousins who lived in Brandon. So
That's great. Eh?
chill. So let's chill about how cool and urban they were.
Yeah.
But they were girls, and they lived primarily with their mom, and they all took music lessons
Yeah.
and dance class. And it was this, and like lovely feminine, kind of city life. I don't know, Brandon
Yeah.
life. And it was my dad and me and my brothers. And I have an auntie and uncle that live in Surrey. So fun being able to say the real names of these places. I'm
Oh, I
like, that
guess.
live
Yeah.
45 minutes away. Anyways, and they had 2 boys and a girl, but we all grew up on a farm. And at some point in our adulthood, we were all together at a wedding, and my other farm cousins and me were kind of explaining to these 3 city cousins that when they would come visit, we had really strict rules about like how we could be like
Yeah.
what we could share about what we found fun with these city girls. And
That's
so
right.
it was, and especially my boy cousins, who really did like to do, trapping squirrels or shooting gophers or all that dumb stuff that farm boys of that time kind of did. And so we were, and anyways, and so that conversation always really stuck out for me as very funny. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about in comedy, I kept coming back to that, of how funny it was that, like, as kids on a farm, we had the self-awareness that, like, some of this stuff was aggressive and weird and, like, not suitable for company, but also, like, very normal, and we were never gonna not do it.
For sure. And that's country life, like from childhood
Yeah,
to adulthood of the things that are allowed out in the country, definitely, yeah, not allowed anywhere else. And if you
not allowed anywhere else.
yeah,
And I don't know, like, I feel it sometimes as an adult who lives in a city where you'll just be like, "Oh, that's, like, really different." Like, stuff will come up, and I channeled all of that energy into the story about, my husband's dog versus our dogs, and how city people treat dogs versus how country people treat dogs. Um,
yes,
but because you can't kind of, I was at a wedding and then this happened and this happened, you can't add all that detail. And so
yeah.
it's the dogs were a metaphor. It sounds insane. um,
There is
because the dogs were
probably
real
something to
dogs.
this. Yeah.
It was, I do try and touch on this idea that, like, it is very different. And, like, me as a person, especially as a person who now has young kids and is raising them in a city, and I'm just like, some of this is, the conversations are different. And I
Oh,
sometimes
yes.
don't really feel like I totally get it. Like, I don't totally know the rules of like, child's playground in a fancy city neighborhood, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, "No, you can hit that kid." Like, I probably had it
Yeah,
coming, like,
it's true.
like, I
Yeah, and
don't
yes,
know.
you can have a pee on the side of the road, of course.
Yes! You
Yeah.
can play in the park, nobody cares.
Oh, no, no, it's so small, nobody will see it anyway, like, it's okay.
Nobody will, it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we grew like, that was kind of the same with Luke because we go to the farm, like, my parents lived in the farm forever still, and yeah, yeah, same thing, like, Winnipeg life versus so Luke has got to see, like, all of this.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and, the funny part about your gig then is that it'll be funny for the country people because they're like, "Oh my god, you're so right, I totally did that, that's funny," but then the city people will be like, "Holy shit, that's horrifying, but really funny." Like, I can't
That's kinda
yeah.
that's the needle to thread, and I didn't have it when I first started. It was very, like, either too shocking or it was, too mean. Like, it was either, like, too true or it was too, like, I was really coming across as, like, "And I'm right and you're wrong."
Oh,
And, like,
yeah,
I do hope I don't really do the set, I don't plan on doing the set as much anymore, until I get, up to that half hour, but, I really was trying to kind of compare and contrast, that we're
yeah,
all silly, that we're all kind of stupid, we all don't really know
yeah,
what we're doing, but that they are very different, like, very different worlds. And no
100%.
one ever does it. No one ever goes, like, city country. Country people go city all the time because you need jobs and
Yeah.
you have different dreams and whatever. But, like, no one ever goes, and I find people are very curious.
Yeah, because it is a completely different world and mentality, so to be able to capture that in a fun way, I think, good on you. I'm really
That's
excited
the
to see
goal.
your journey, that's for sure.
I had someone, this, like, kindly older man, and I used to do this bit that was, about my brothers, kind of, and I still do it sometimes, but again, I only get 6 minutes, so
Yeah,
sometimes, so I haven't done it in a long time, but I was at a comedy club and I was doing this bit, and it was about how, like I say, like, my brothers have seen my set and they would want you to know that, like, I didn't have to do anything, which is actually very true. Um, and I was kind of talking about how, like, as a girl with two older brothers who were a lot older than me, I didn't have to do as many chores. Like,
yeah,
their farm experience was actually very different from my farm experience because they
yeah,
were, like, at different points hired hands. Well, I was just like a little kid who got,
yeah,
like, protected and coddled because I was a girl. Anyways, and I told this story about, how it's, again, jokes told in this style are not funny, but how when my brothers and I would go out and play, it was their job to check if all the electric fences were electric, so that we could go through them so that I wouldn't get hurt. That I never touched an electric fence in my entire life, but they were forever touching these fences and
Yeah.
getting zapped and then going like, we can't crawl through, we have to go find something else or whatever. And so I told this story, which was better, hopefully, on stage. It got some laughs. But anyways, at the end, this lovely old man came up to me and he was just like, I just want to tell you that I grew up on a farm and I had sisters and I had to do the same thing. And he was just like, it took me back to that.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a fun couple of minutes, and it never really like landed in a huge, meaningful way, except for this one guy who had that experience.
That's
And
super cool though.
I thought it was really cool, and I like, and you know, it was a fun bit, and I don't really do it anymore, but I wanted to tell myself that the reason I don't do it isn't because like it, you know, it wasn't very good and it wasn't very popular, but also because like it was only ever going to matter to this one guy. That joke was written for that guy.
He got it. He was like, same girl, same.
He was like, I hear you.
Yeah.
And then he came and told me, and I was like, I'm not gonna push this anymore because it'll never get better than that. I'm an amateur stand-up comic. This guy coming up and like telling me that I saw him is the joke is not, doesn't have legs beyond that.
I love that. I love that. So your family have all seen you perform?
Actually, hardly any of them have seen me perform. A lot of my friends have seen me perform.
Yeah. Okay.
But my husband has never seen me perform.
Okay.
And he knows all my jokes, and is a pretty good judge of like what's funny. Like,
yeah.
But I really started performing kind of at the year leading up to COVID.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had done it. I had done it prior to that. I actually, the very first time that I did stand up, so I took the class, and then I did like an open mic show, and then got pregnant. Like it was right around that time I got married and I got pregnant. I was very, very sick with my first pregnancy. And so with the combination of being like scared shitless and for comedy and scared shitless for being pregnant for the first time and being very sick, I didn't actually do it again. I think I did it once more while I was pregnant, but until I had the baby and was like kind of okay. And then I started doing it all the time when she was about like a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I started doing it like basically once a week until COVID happened.
Yeah, right.
And so my husband was always at home with our job. Like comedy happens at night.
Right.
So I would go out and do this, and he would be at home. And so all of that has worked out that he's never seen me perform. And I don't know if I really want him to. He's seen my tapes, he's seen videos, he knows what I talk about, but I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like it would be very weird to, you know, like if when people come that I know and watch me, sometimes it's really in my head.
Yes, I get you.
If you were in theater, like you're kind of like, oh, my dad's here, and it's just kind of in the back of your mind the whole time.
That's right. Like, what's so and so gonna think of it? And then like,
or even just like they're here, you know, and suddenly I'm just playing for them. I'm trying to make my husband laugh instead of, you know, all the other people. So he still hasn't seen me, which he should. He should just come out. Because I'm not as nervous as I used to be anymore either. I don't really mind having a bad show as much. It's not true. It kills me. But other than that, no one else really has. Like my family doesn't live here.
Yeah, true.
And I primarily perform here. And then between, you know, COVID kind of shutting everything down for really 2 years, like travel and comedy clubs, it never really worked out that anyone in my family could come watch me, but hopefully that will change.
Yeah, that's got to change. I got to get out there. You got to come here.
Yes.
We got to do something. Yeah.
I would like to perform there. I don't know if anyone at YEKX Winnipeg is listening.
We'll tag them in it. Yeah.
We'll tag them in it, but I would love to. And I like, I was actually supposed to have a show. I have a can of water that I'm going to open, or else I'm just going to keep what this is collagen water so that I'll stay young and beautiful. But I was supposed to have a show in Winnipeg when I was home last summer, but it got canceled. So that was, but yes, the more people, the better.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So, any big goals or big plans or anything, or what's your hope and dream?
I don't know. All of them. Like
I
it's
love it.
sort of it's a really interesting like experience because in all likelihood, I will probably keep doing what I'm doing for a very long time and at some point become a regional opener, which would
Yes.
be amazing. That
Yeah,
is literally like fine by me. Uh, because that's a lot harder than that's actually really good. Like that's a very
that's
hard thing
huge.
to
I love
achieve
that.
and will take a really long time. That said, I'll do whatever, like there's
Yeah,
kind of this um I want to say unlimited potential, but that's not true because it's this is a very limited potential. Um, but I really love doing it and I just want to keep doing it for as long as it makes me happy, which I foresee being a very long time. It's a deeply rewarding experience. It's
yeah,
hard to describe and you know, perform the energy that it feels when you were up there and people are connected and listening and you have their attention,
yes,
making them laugh or making them feel or whatever if it's a
yes,
play
all the stuff.
is so cool. I can't imagine ever
It's
giving
like
it up.
It's like crack, like, there's no
Yeah.
better drug, like, seeing people like, I remember the one play well, I would write the plays, and then I would go over them in my mind in bed at night, and I would review them, and I'd be laughing and crying in bed because I was laughing because I could picture
Yeah.
it out play out, and then to see that happen in real life, like, see, like, Wes Carr wiping his eyes and,
Yeah.
and that kinda stuff was just there's no other feeling than something like that. That was
It's
super fun.
so cool.
Yeah, there's no better feeling.
There
Which
is no better feeling.
I think you and I should write something.
I would love to. I
Yeah.
will write anything. And I do. I actually took a TV writing class last year, last summer, and really loved it. Like, and I have a lot. I'm like applying for a job. But I've only ever made all my money, which isn't a lot of money, but I've ever made money writing. It's just
I love that.
all that I've ever been paid to do, and none of it's very exciting. But it's something that I'm very comfortable with and something that I'm very happy with. And I've kind of always gone to work and been a marketer. And then for fun, did a few other things. And when I lived in Calgary and pre doing comedy, I did magazine writing work, which
Right, right, right.
yeah, the pay is garbage, but I enjoy the interviews and I enjoy
Yeah, it's
writing
fun.
profiles, and it was a lot of fun. But this is better. Like it's
Yeah.
incredible to me how much I enjoy stand up versus that because it adds that for one, it's totally your own. You don't have to share it with
Yes.
anybody, and
Yes.
it's in your own. Like I can't compel club owners to book me, but I can, if I work hard, usually find a person who will give me a microphone. Um, and I can go up and do this experience. I can tell a joke, I can try a piece of writing, I can do whatever. And
Yeah.
it's much quicker and I don't know, it's a style of writing, even though it's not even really writing, but it's a style of writing
Sure.
that makes me like much happier than all the other styles, all of
For
which made
sure.
me very happy.
But
Um
this is human a condensed human connection, right?
yeah,
Making your life, you're making it funny, you're connecting on an emotional and funny level. It's yeah. It's
it's a
like
lot of fun.
yeah.
And it's really high pressure. Like
Yeah.
it's not the pressure for are you going to succeed or not. Though it can be, but if you separate all of that, it's still high pressure because you're just the only person who's allowed to talk in a room full of people, and that can kind of
Yeah.
when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah.
When it's bad, it's bad. It feels terrible, and
Sure.
I'm an amateur, so it's bad a lot. And if you only get 6 minutes on stage and it's minute 3 and it's going badly, you don't have any space to climb out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people who get 15 minutes have been doing it for a lot longer, and they're better. But I do think that having that extra time gives them the room to get the audience
Yeah.
back.
Because
Like if I
sometimes you
have,
gotta,
sometimes it's really, really hard. If you have 5
yeah,
or 6 minutes and you're halfway through it and it's not working, to pivot to other stuff is like you're just taking a swing that this other
right.
topic or whatever will work, but you don't have the time to ramp up in a meaningful
Yeah,
way.
and you don't have time to kind of get them lubed up and warmed up.
No.
Like there's no comedy foreplay or anything. Like you got to get them laughing like right now.
You got to just do it. I did terribly at a contest last summer, and which happens, and I realized with a spotlight on me and a room full of people and judges at the back that I had been doing a lot of crowd work, and I hadn't even
Oh,
given myself credit for that. And like I bombed. I'm not saying I no bombed. I bombed. It was terrible. But I remember standing up there, and in this contest, you weren't really allowed to do crowd work. Like I should have. In hindsight, I should have. At the, 3 minutes in, I was not going to win, and and it was going badly, and I was feeling stupid. And some crowd work might have made me feel better about being up there.
yeah, yeah.
But doing crowd work as part of this contest wouldn't give you any points. Like you couldn't win any points for
Okay.
crowd work.
Yeah.
And so it was like, so you weren't really supposed to do it. And while I was standing up there, I realized that I had actually learned how to do crowd work and not given myself credit for it, because when things were not going great, my instinct was to do that crowd work and
Yeah.
was to pivot in that way. And without being able to do it, I really recognized that it was something that I did do.
So, and is that kind of stuff like helps get you back on the saddle if you do have kind of a rough show, like to get back on stage the next time?
I think the get back on stage the next time is just a foregone conclusion.
Just get it.
Like
Yeah.
bombing is it just happens.
Yeah.
And especially at my level, like there's no way that I can go. I have a show tomorrow night. Now I'm talking about bombing all the time. And so it is at the same place. And so anyways, and so I'm hopefully not jinxing it, but like it does just happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit
Um,
happens.
and,
Yeah.
and you do, and sometimes it feels like you're bombing in a big way, and it's actually just nothing.
Yeah.
Like the extent, I don't know, maybe this is the life lesson, but the extent to which you're up there and you're telling jokes and people are listening, and it's not just like laughter, but they're still fine. They're having an okay time.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're not like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just existing,
Yeah.
and they're not laughing out loud, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not that bad.
And then the
And
days,
it's really hard to see.
but it makes up for the times when they are just going to town. Like that's
When
gold.
they're there, it's amazing. And one thing that's been very helpful for me is seeing other performers, because we do the same jokes over and over and over again. And I'll see other people do a joke that like maybe never made sense to me, or I didn't really get, or I'd seen bomb, and then you see them and it's all clicking and you're like,
Oh,
oh
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how that's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And you really notice it because I do a lot of shows in bars and stuff, and so there's a lot of great jokes that get missed because the audience is ordering drinks or talking to their friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they're just 15 people and they're just listening,
Yeah.
and like they're not. The difference between people at an open mic in a bar or restaurant and people in a comedy club is like measured in decibels. Like it's
I agree.
huge.
Yeah.
And so if I have just been performing in open mics and I'm having a good time and I'm maybe not getting the massive laughter, it can be shocking to compare a tape of myself in that small place having what I feel like is a good show, and then at a comedy club having an amazing show or a terrible show, because it's so different, and how I react is different, and the way that my voice goes is different. It's
Interesting.
just it's really cool.
Yeah, I believe it. A lot of learning and stuff because we even learn stuff even with our little plays in Millennium.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it was just a massive hit, and sometimes we would think we're doing a great job, and it was just
And that
not. Yeah.
and it just has to happen, and
Yeah.
you cannot, as a person who wants to make something, hear that much. Like, you can't, like, there's people in your life that you can choose and say, like, this person is objective. Like, I'll take any advice that Amy Schumer wants to give me for the rest of my life. Plus
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people locally that I love and respect. But at the end of the day, they actually don't give out that much advice because it's kind of hard, because
Yeah.
things change a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like there's some people that, like, I'm sure the judges of that comedy contest, if there was someone who had never seen me perform before and never saw me perform again, just as like, oh, she's bad, because I was objectively really bad that day, and it 100% did not work. And if I just like take all that in,
Yeah.
and even if it's, there was just local people, but if there had been this amazing judge who said, like, I don't know, that was pretty bad, I don't think you're gonna make it, kid, and if I had just lived in that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know what, maybe it was really bad, and maybe I'm not gonna make it, and those can both be real, but I might have a good show tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's
Which is
just,
a good lesson for life in general, right? You can't let the bad shit slow you down from trying again, and you can't worry about people's opinions a hell of a lot either.
you really can't. And like, as a person, I keep saying that. Can tell I have kids. Just like, as a woman, but as a person, I found in the last 10 years I have fewer opinions, and I give less opinions to people, which I'm not sure was ever really
Yeah.
my thing. But like, I am not someone who thinks that other people's preferences are good or bad. And that has been cemented for
Yeah.
me through doing stand up, because you can
Yeah.
really see that, like, you just might not be somebody's cup of tea, or the sliver that you see of a person is not them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a version of them, it's not anything. If you have
Yeah.
an interaction with a person and it's 5 minutes long, and then you leave,
Yeah.
you don't know anything about
That's
them.
that's a
Someone
lightning bolt of time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a lightning bug. And people who see me perform on a good night or a bad night don't know anything about me as a performer, because
Yeah.
they just saw me for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it
Yeah.
does it does kind of it opened my mind.
That's
I
excellent. I
don't
love
feel like
that.
I was a deeply judgmental person before, but I don't know, maybe I was.
It happens. Yeah, yeah. I'm so massively impressed. Like, I mean, I think this is going to be a really great podcast for people to listen everywhere because you're doing the stuff. Like, I mean, so many
Oh, thank
people
you.
they have like, oh, I'd like to do such and such, but it's too scary, or what will people think, or what if I suck at it, or all the stuff. Or they'll
Yeah.
just think, I'll do it when I retire, or blah blah blah, I'll do it later. You can't wait, and that makes your ass tingle. Like, go give her shit. I love it.
And you really have to, like, get over, life gets so much better when you don't worry about being embarrassed.
Yes, yes, yes.
It as much as possible. Like, I'm still a polite person. I still have to exist in the world. I still have
Yeah.
to have a semblance of decorum, and dress appropriately for certain things. But like, I know people who feel a lot of, I don't know, nerves before they head out in the world,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
working to get rid of that
Yeah.
is like, if you never step on a stage and never use a microphone or sing a song or make something and show your work, that's fine. But just like, focus all your energy on being a person who can walk out the door and just be yourself and have a
Yeah.
great time.
Do your shit. Do it
'Cause
all.
it's really rewarding to not have, I don't know, I always I have this joke that doesn't really work well, but that like the voice in your head is not real. The voice in your head is your dad. And it's not your dad who loves you and like proud of you when you graduated high school and gave you a big hug. It's your dad on like the worst day of his life.
Right, right.
You know, and I always say that it's like it's my dad on Christmas and he's been up since 6 and he spent a bunch of money and no one's being grateful enough for all the toys. And then he's got to put all his stupid kids in a stupid car and
Yeah,
drive through a snowstorm to go eat dinner with his dad.
yeah,
And like, and that's a lot. That's what the voice in your head is.
yeah.
And like you as a normal person would not listen to your dad in that state. You
Right,
would recognize that dad's had 3 beers and he's pissed off,
just put him to
and
bed,
you know
put him to
his
bed.
sisters are chipping in his ear, and you know he stepped on a bunch of Lego. You would not, you know, but
Yeah,
that's what's in there. That's it. That's the voice.
that's a good lesson. That's a good lesson.
And
Well, I,
do stand-up comedy. That's all the lesson because it's a lot
you
of
know,
fun.
you were a kick-ass person in high school. I always had such massive respect for you. Like you are the person who makes people happy. You were a fantastic writer even then, super creative, and
Oh,
I'm not
thank you.
surprised that you're succeeding and kicking ass right now because yeah, I think you're fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I made $35 so far this year as a stand-up comedian. So by the measure of success, it is money. I am having a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
you were a very good teacher. And I think I very much struck gold with the teachers that I had in my school at that time. But I mean, and I know you don't teach anymore, but you were a very creative and imaginative teacher. You led that drama class. You were, you know, did all those plays. And all of those things meant a lot to me. And I know they meant a lot to my friends because they were a lot of fun. And I know that like my desire, my comfort level with being on a stage doing this, there's like a line for me how much fun it was being on a stage when I was a kid.
We had so much fun, eh?
So much fun.
We had fun. Yes, I had to write a couple apology letters through my career for having a little bit too much fun on the stage with the liberties I took, but it was all worth it. Yes.
Yeah, and as a kid, I think, I mean, I don't know the contents of those apology letters. I will go on record and say I don't remember anything too bad from any of those plays, but like I wasn't a child, I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out how to be a person. And I think that period of time was very strange, like in the world, where it was like a lot of mixed messages about what a person should be, and like this hanging on of like being polite and decorum and
Right.
manners and
Yeah.
whatever, that like kind of wasn't the way that the world was trending. I don't know. I'm polite and I have manners. I don't feel obligated to use them all the time. Like it's not
Highly
like
overrated.
but it's not my primary goal of the day.
Yeah.
And I have these kids and I want them to be polite and safe and whatever in the world. But I also want them to just be whatever people that they're going to be. And
Yeah.
sometimes that looks like swearing when you're 16, which I did do and
Sure.
still do,
Yeah, you
you
do
know,
it every day.
and
One
I
of the
don't know.
best moments, well, we had many, many moments all the way through, but the one year I took you guys and we came into Winnipeg to see a stage play. We used the drama money and we came in and I think we saw
Yeah,
King Lear
that
and
rings a bell.
I left getting the tickets so late that we had to sit in the very front row, which is not ideal. Like it's not, those aren't good tickets, but
No,
I remember everybody being super excited that we got like the best seats in the house because they were in the front row. And
yes.
Rebecca, I won't say who she is, but her last name ends with McNish. Uh, she was sitting beside me, and I'll never forget it. She turns to me and she goes, "I know I shouldn't say this, Miss Sarn, but who did you sleep with to get these tickets?" She was so thrilled. I made it all.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I remember that.
Yeah, that's a lot
That's
of fun.
funny.
So thank you very much, my friend. This has been
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous. Either I have to get to Ottawa or you have to come to Winnipeg, but I have to see you perform.
Well, for me personally, I would rather come to Winnipeg. I did get to perform in Montreal a few weeks ago, which it's fun to go out of town. But again, as a person with kids, it's not the easiest thing. But I'm
Yeah.
actually, like, I'm going to Los Angeles in a few weeks because it's a very small comedy festival there. But I got into a very small comedy festival in Los Angeles the first weekend of June.
That's excellent.
Very cool. So you could also
Yeah.
come to Los Angeles and see me
Yeah.
perform in the tiniest comedy club in the entire city, which would be very cool. But I would love to come to Winnipeg, and
Yeah.
hopefully will. Because I don't go to Winnipeg very often, it's hard. But I have so many friends. If a booker is listening, I could bring so many people that you'll make a lot of money.
100, all of Southwest Manitoba is going to be,
Yeah,
yeah, when
graduated class and all
all
my
the
aunties and uncles.
F-150s and the plaid and the denim.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be denim central and
be
F-150s.
fun.
Bales in the truck
Be
in the
fun.
back. Yeah.
Yes. Cool.
Excellent. Well, I will close it off. And I don't know if you've seen any of my other million audience people podcasts, but I always close it off by saying, buy somebody a compliment, buy a compliment, pay a coffee. I don't know. Yeah. Buy
I
a
like it.
coffee, pay a compliment, tell somebody a joke, bonus points if it's a little bit dirty.
Yes.
Yes. And we have to do this again. Yeah, we have to catch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Periodically throughout my career, I will
Yes,
just
as you become famous,
come
more
back.
and more famous. I think you're probably already famous.
I am not famous. I am not famous. I have never done a weekend show. I am not famous.
Well, when
But
that day comes, you will be on our show again.
I will.
Yeah.
With bells on.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, my friend. I'm so massively
Thank you.
impressed. Yeah. See you later.